Imagine this. An employee requests sensitive pricing data. Sometimes it's low value, safe to share instantly. But sometimes it's high value, confidential, and risky. So, how do companies control this? They don't rely on people, they automate the decision. Today, I'll show you exactly how to build that system using Microsoft Power Automate. Welcome back to the Data Corner. We're building a smart workflow where employee requests data, the system checks sensitivity, and either shares instantly or triggers approval. For our first step, we will start by creating a list in Microsoft Lists. You can simply go to Microsoft Automate, and from there, if you click on this icon, you will see an option for Microsoft Forms, and there should be lists here as well. If you don't see it, you can simply click on More Apps. You should be able to see lists here somewhere. Here are the lists. Alright, so from lists, click on Create New. You can either create a new list from scratch within here, or you can import an Excel file, which is always easy. So let's go to our Excel, and I already have an Excel file made called Video Game Sales. Let's open it up, and this is our file, which is in a table format. It has rank, name of the product, platform, and the main thing is cost per unit and sales price per unit, which is what we are going to use. Keep in mind that this is in a table format, so if we click on table design, you can see the name for it, table 1. You can rename it, or you can simply keep it as it is. Let's copy and click the link, close this, go back to lists, import from Excel, and here we will say upload from device, and simply add this link that you copied before. Click on open, and it will look for tables. So you have to make sure that the file you're uploading has the data in a table format instead of regular Excel format. So you can see it has already fetched a table from here and says select a table. Since our file only has one table, we will simply select table 1, and it has also added the column names and guess the column type as well. So you can go through them. So for rank, it has column type as title. We are simply going to change that as text or number. Name is title, that's fine. Platform, single line of text. Number, year, we are going to call that as single line of text because the number format is kind of treating it as a numeric. Genre is single line of text, is fine. Publisher, cost per unit, and sales per unit are both numbers, which is fine. So click on next. Name it as per your liking. I'm going to keep the name as it is, Video Game Sales. Click on create, and this should create your list shortly, and you have your list created here. Click on add column. We want to create a new column that calculates the sensitivity based on this price per unit. So click on add column, and here it has a lot of options. What we want is a calculated column, which we don't see in the list. So we click on see all column types, click on next, and this will take you to a new window. This settings, create column. Let's create column name. Let's call it sensitivity, or let's just call it price sensitivity. And here it says the type of information. We are looking for a calculated column, so let's click on calculated column. It will refresh, and it will give me option to add a formula here. So in this window we can add if else. So we say if, we open a parentheses, and we want to look at sales price per unit. So we say if sales price per unit is greater than 60, then let's call it sensitive, else we call it safe to share, or let's just change it to requires approval and safe to share. So we have to use the same syntax which we use in Excel. So we add if, we test the condition, and if it's true, then we add the value, and if it's false, we give the value that's going to be false. The data type is fine as single line of text. Click on OK, and this should create a new column. Right, we don't see it. Sometimes you need to refresh your list in order to see your column. Alright, so we have our column here that says price sensitivity. So 102 price requires approval. Let's look at something that is safe to share. So 60 is safe to share because we get greater than 60. So equals to 60 is safe to share. 6, 8, 43, these are safe to share. And then we have The ones that are greater than 60 would need approval. Right, we have successfully created our list. Let's just remember the name, video game sales. If you don't want to create calculate columns, you can simply create this column inside of your Excel data that you loaded and just load it here like we did in the import. Next we go to Microsoft Forms and we create a new form. So this is our form. Let's name it requested data for quotation. You can add form description. I'm going to leave it here. The first thing we would like to add is text. Let's say we want the name of the person that is requesting this information. We say your name. We add another question. It will be text as well. Let's call it reason for request. Then we add another question. This would be a choice. Let's call it choice. And we say urgency. And we'll give two options. This is normal or urgent. And finally we give another question that is text. This will be equal to the name of the product which we are actually requesting. You just have to keep in mind that the name of your product needs to be exact copy paste of the name that is here, which you have to give here. You can play around a bit and see if there is a way to add this inside of a choice and make it a drop down option where you just select the product name. I will leave that up to you for practice. Alright, so we have created our request form. Let's go to Power Automate window and let's start creating our main flow. From home page, click on create. And here we will say automated cloud flow. We want this to be triggered by a designated event, which would be when a new response or new form is submitted. Click on automate cloud flow. Let's give it a good name. Let's call it price quotation response. And what we want as a trigger should be when a new response is submitted in forms. If you don't see this here, you can simply do a search when a new response, and this should give you the filtered option. Make sure that you have to select the Microsoft Forms one. Select it, click on create, and this would create your first connection. Alright, it says invalid connection, so let's update our connection. If it does not connect automatically, you would have to put in your login credentials for your Microsoft 365 and then it will start working. Since I already made another example, it is showing two different options, but the one which we created right now is requested data for quotation with a capital T. So let's select it. Great. Now let's add another step. So we added our trigger. So next thing we'll add is an action. So we will do get response details. Click on form ID. Form ID is requested data for quotation, and the response ID. This would basically come from our earlier trigger. So add a forward slash to access dynamic content. Let's do that, and let's select response ID from our previous step. Let's add another step. Alright, so the next item we need is, or the next action we need is get items, which actually gets the data out of this response details and loads the actual table that is inside of our list. So we say get items, and here you have to select your actual site address from the list tab. So copy. So let's add it here, enter custom value. Once you do that, it will give you option to pick the list name. So let's click on drop down. Let's pick the name, video game sales. This is what we gave it. And inside of advanced parameters, we want to add a filter query. Let's select it and let's add a filter query. It's an OData filter query. We don't want to load everything. We just want to load the product selected in the form. So we will use title EQ. We add single quotes and we give the name of product, so that we get from dynamic content. So from get response details, we select name of product and we wrap it inside of single quotes. Great. Let's just save our flow till here. If this gives an error, that means that there's some issue with your flow, because it will not save it with an error. Alright, so it has saved it successfully. Your flow is ready to go. We recommend you test it. We're not going to test it right now because our flow is not in a testable condition. Let's add another step here. Alright, so now we will do apply to each to process the result. So let's add apply to each. We do that in search bar, apply to each. In control, we select apply to each, and here we select a condition, which is what we are going to test against. So we say condition. So the apply to each step will take the value as body slash value. There's only one option available, so let's just select it, body slash value. This is basically the result from the get items. Then in condition, let's check our condition. The condition we want is we want to check price sensitivity column for either requires approval or safe to share. So we say price sensitivity, or we can simply select it from here. We say select this column from get response details, or actually get items, see more, and here we select price sensitivity equals to, and here we say let's just test one of these options, and then if it's not true, then we can simply add the condition for the other one. So we test for requires approval. If price sensitivity equals to requires approval, then we start an approval process. So we say start and wait for approval. Approval type would be first to respond, approve / reject, first to respond. So basically for now I'm going to send this approval to myself, and as soon as I respond, it will automatically continue it. So we say approve, reject, first to respond, and then it shows a couple of different options. So we say title, so we will call it approval for price sharing. And assigned to, I will add my own email ID here. You will obviously use whatever person you want this to be approving. For now I'm going to use my own ID. You can add other information. I'm going to skip everything else for now. Click on save. Now let's add an option for case where this condition is false, or where the sensitivity does not require approval and says safe to share. In that case we want to send an email. So let's select here and let's add an action here. We say send an email, select the v2 option, send an email v2, and here let's add some information. So let's add in items here. So I'm going to say the data corner at outlook.com. Subject, here is your price information, and you can add for the product name. So we say insert dynamic content, and here we want to give the name of product, should be hidden somewhere here. So let's call it this title, I believe, and here we'll say price for title is, and we add another dynamic content, and here we want to select sales price per unit, and we say thanks. You can format this using these code view, but for now I'm just going to keep it as it is, just for testing purposes. Click on save. Your flow is done. Time to test it. So let's test it. Let's head back to main Microsoft Automate window and then proceed to Microsoft Forms. Click on the most recent created form. Once the form loads, click on present. Copy the link from here, paste it in a new window, and then start filling the responses. Reason for request office use, urgency, let's say urgent. Name of product needs to be exact name, so we click on this and we copy the name from here, V Sports. Keep in mind that this one is high sensitivity, so it would require an approval. So this should basically start an approval process. Once that is submitted, go back to your flow screen, click on refresh. Hopefully we should see a flow that is triggered here shortly. Alright, we can see it's running. If all goes well, this should generate an approval. Alright, so let's check our approvals. I believe it has generated an approval. So you see it has generated approval right now, April 16, 1 minute ago. And it gives an option to either approve or disapprove it. You also get this approval on your cell phone if you have set up your Microsoft 365 and Teams. Click on approve, say approve, confirm, and it gets removed from here. Click on done. Ran the flow successfully, and if we check the flow for our values, you can see it has picked up the correct value V Sports. It did pick up its price and other values as well. So 20 and 75, this is probably cost and this is price. And since it said requires approval, it did not automatically send out this information. Now let's test the different case where it sent an email. Let's fill the form again, and this time we put a value that does not require an approval. So let's do this quickly. So our code ran successfully, which is good, because if it was still running, that means it generated an approval. Let's check here what condition was satisfied. True, false. So this was false, that means it hit this one, and it did successfully send out an email. And if we go to our Outlook, you can see it sent out this information. Price for Halo 3 is $7. Thanks. Let's look up and match this product in our list. And we see that it picked up the product along with its price correctly. This pattern can be used everywhere: finance approvals, HR requests, system access, anywhere decisions that needs control. If you found this video helpful, make sure to check out my other Power Automate project-based tutorials as well. If you have any ideas or topics you would like me to cover, let me know as well in the comments. Till next time, happy learning.